In 1937, the Nazis began to pressure Jews to sell their businesses and urged German businesses to fire their Jewish employees.
Well, it was sort of a passage from disbelief to despair. Let's put it that way. Some Jews saw the handwriting on the wall and left Germany. But most Jews thought that they would stay in Germany where they know the language, where they had their property, where they had their friends, and that even though the Nazis would make living a bit more uncomfortable, but they wouldn't make it impossible.
As they entered 1938, it was hard to see how it could get much worse for German Jews. In early 1938, Hitler annexed Austria. Support for the Nazis had been growing in Austria for nearly a decade, with active encouragement from Germany. On March the 12th, German troops crossed the border, and the following day, with massive popular backing, Hitler declared Anschluss, the political union of Austria and Germany. The annexation was a disaster for Austria's 200,000 Jews. The Austrians were more fanatical than the Germans and tried to catch up with 5 years of German anti-Semitism in 2 weeks. In Vienna, Jews were humiliated and beaten. They were forced to scrub the streets, and Jewish homes and businesses were looted. Hundreds of Jews committed suicide, and thousands more fled. For 9-year-old Lisa Collier, growing up in Vienna, the world changed overnight.
Suddenly I couldn't go to school anymore. And then I would go to work with my father, because if a man was on the street by himself, it was much more dangerous than if he had a child with him. So I would go to work with him, and I felt that I protected him. It was dangerous for my family, it was dangerous for me, it was dangerous for anybody Jewish. And my only hope ever was to get away, get away. That was the thought.
The attacks on Jews during the Anschluss encouraged random acts of violence against Jews throughout the Reich. Next, Hermann Göring, Hitler's economics minister, issued a decree allowing the Nazi government to seize all Jewish financial assets. Tens of thousands of Jews added their names to waiting lists for emigration visas. Jewish parents were desperate to get their children out of Germany. Jack Hahn was a 17-year-old student at that time.
We were trying to get a visa to the United States, but that was extremely difficult because they had a quota on Germans. Each country had a quota, and the quota was pretty full.
Despite massive demonstrations in America in support of German Jews, the Americans admitted only 15,000 German refugees a year.
The American president was not, as the American government was not, willing to change American policy and receive large numbers of Jewish refugees.
In order to deflect domestic criticism of his government, President Franklin Roosevelt convened a special conference on international refugees at Evian, a French resort near the Swiss border. 36 countries attended, but none were willing to take in more Jews.
So essentially, there were fitful efforts to achieve some kind of international resolution. These were fitful indeed, and nothing resulted.
By the end of 1938, Nazi pressure increased. Jews were expelled from most professions and trades. They were no longer permitted to own businesses or to be landlords. Most German Jews began to sink into poverty. Nazi Germany was also gearing up for war. Hitler was in a confident and aggressive mood. In September, after Germany annexed the Sudetenland with the blessing of Britain and France, Hitler began to threaten Poland. In Germany, there were 70,000 Polish Jews. They became victims of the increasing tension. The Gestapo rounded up and deported 15,000 of them. The deportees were transported by train and dumped across the Polish border. The Poles didn't want them either, so for weeks, thousands of Jews were stranded in a small border town, living as refugees, sheltering in farms and factories, with little food or water. One of the deported Jewish families had a son living illegally in Paris, a 17-year-old boy, Herschel Greenspan. On November the 3rd, Greenspan got a postcard from Poland with an anguished plea for help from his sister. 4 days later, the impoverished and desperate teenager, unable to leave France and help his family, went to the German embassy in Paris and shot a young diplomat, Ernst von Rath. 2 bullets hit him but did not kill him. Greenspan allowed himself to be arrested. A day later, the teenager made an eloquent plea. "I was not motivated by hatred, but by love for my father and my people, who have endured unbearable suffering," he said. "To be Jewish is not a crime. We are not animals. The Jewish people have a right to live." In Nazi Germany, where to be Jewish was a crime, propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels saw the shooting as an opportunity not to be wasted. He ordered all German newspapers to put the story on their front pages, as an incitement against German Jewry.
The newspapers were saying that the world Jewry was declaring war on Germany.
Erwin Schild was then an 18-year-old student at a Jewish religious academy near Würzburg in Bavaria, a hotbed of anti-Semitism.
The German media really whipped up the fury of the Germans against the Jews, because the murder or the assassination attempt had been naturally orchestrated by world Jewry, no doubt about that, and now we have to take revenge of the Jews. And we were terrified. We didn't know what to do.
My father immediately reacted, saying, "This is it. Now all gates will be open for any violence." I remember that exactly. And my father just said, "Beware."
Hitler was in Munich, where Nazi Party veterans were celebrating the anniversary of their 1923 attempt to seize power, when he received news of the diplomat's death. It was an opportunity for action.
He was informed of the death of von Rath at 4 or 4:30 on the afternoon of the 9th. He later has some conversations with Joseph Goebbels in private. They work out exactly what's going to happen next. Hitler makes it clear that he has authorized this. He wants this to happen.
Hitler left it to Goebbels to incite the stormtroopers. At 10 p.m., Goebbels announced the diplomat's death. In a wild tirade, "Comrades, we cannot allow this attack to go unchallenged," he proclaimed. "Together, we must plan what is to be our answer to Jewish murder." With these words, Goebbels set in motion the first major pogrom in Germany since the Middle Ages. As the meeting broke up, Nazi officials relayed instructions to party units all over Germany. The official instructions were precise: to attack Jewish synagogues and businesses, but not to loot, not to mistreat Jews physically,